Guys, if you watched our joint interview slash discussion with Mark Frohnmayer and Lee of LG Investments, there was so much information there that we felt like we needed to get right back on while it was still fresh and just discuss everything, because I think all of us had our worlds rocked a little bit. And so while it's still fresh in our heads, we're going to do a discussion, updating our bear case, bull case, and potential questions for the future of Arcimoto in 2022 and beyond.
I can't believe Mark has completely changed in my brain the course of FUV, because it seems like he doesn't even care about the deliberator anymore.
I've been telling you, this is what I've been saying. He is not trying to sell these vehicles.
You know what, Carlos, at the end of the day, you saw something that I just did not recognize Mark saying, because he has been telling us about the deliberator. Yes. He has been saying about rentals, but it seems he doesn't really care about that. Lee, are we crazy? Were we crazy to believe this?
Yeah, we're all crazy about it. A little bit, in a good sense. What he said is they are focusing on scaling the platform production, and then most part of that not selling to consumers, but actually fleets and rentals. A large portion of that, as soon as the self-driving stack is ready, they can implement that and then operate a taxi fleet, or let others operate a taxi fleet.
What happens in the interim? 2023, let's say the stack is not ready. I'll be the devil's advocate. It's not ready to go. Where's my deliberator order? Where's my FUV order? What happens to all of that? Because he seems to just want to scoot it over to this ROBOTAXI type thing.
Where's the profit? Like, how's the company making money?
Well, how are they making money to make sure that people keep investing in FUV? Because that's still important, that we keep buying their shares. At the end of the day, he's going to do it. Am I wrong in this?
Yeah, I think it's very important that they can make money or do positive free cash flow without any ROBOTAXI service. And then if they activate such a service, it would be the cherry on top, or very large cherry.
But he did not say that. See, you're saying that, but he did not. He said 2023, I expect most of the units to go towards ROBOTAXI. And surprisingly, Carlos was 100% right. I'm like,
in a year or two, I said he's going for it. Well, here's why.
It's weird. It's weird.
There's a price point where it doesn't make sense to own vehicles anymore. Like by 2030, if that's where you know it's going to be, that first mover in this space where your margins are the best and your name is ubiquitous with that, he doesn't have much time. Because once Tesla activates that Uber as a service, they've got 2 million vehicles on the road right now. So he's got to get penetration and get people just used to the idea of like these short trips. That's what made me think of that. And he never seemed to care about specific sales to customers. He always seemed to be caring more about the rideshare market.
It's the bigger market, so it makes sense. But I think as investors, it's very important to have like a safe plan in your mind that, you know, okay, we highly doubt it that it will happen in 2023, maybe 2025, maybe 2030, but it's important that they have that optionality.
But he's not telling us that.
And that would be very important. That's why I'm tracking margins and costs and asked about the battery and all that stuff, because it's important that they get to profitability or free cash flow positive without any ROBOTAXI, because then they have that optionality, and then they don't have time pressure.
But you've shown they're selling it at a major loss. Like the only way that they'd be able to get the cost down is by selling a ton of those units, but at that price, it's almost impossible. So they
no. As soon as it scales to 50,000, we always believe the cost per unit would drop, right? So
sure, but someone has to buy 50,000 of those vehicles at whatever the current price is, and it's just how long is that going to take? First of all, for them to get to the point that they can make them, and by that point, are there not a million other players? Are the Chinese not coming in with $20,000 cars?
I don't know you guys, but this makes me nervous actually, because look, my background is engineering. Maybe I'm thinking too hard about it. I don't know. It's really hard to do what he said. I've built this stuff. Okay, it is hard to do. We're talking about companies like Tesla cannot do proper autonomous stuff. So the stack that they're building, you can be saying 2025, 2026, this might not be ready till 2030. So me and Lee are concerned, at least I'm concerned now, what happens at 2023 when the stack is not ready and they're not doing follow the leader, and they're not having this hub because they can't afford it, because their stock is in the toilet, because they're not selling enough FUVs. To me, it's like, this is very dangerous. Like what he said to me is a beautiful future, but extremely dangerous. Lee, am I crazy? I don't know.
Completely agree.
This makes you nervous too?
Yeah, a little bit, because also I think that's very important. The development of the technology is not even completely in their hands. They want to add an external stack from another company. So they cannot even control it when it will be ready or not. Tesla, at least, they are fully in control, right? They develop everything in-house, from a chip, software, and everything, right?
I love his vision. I believe in it 100%, but he has to survive till 2025. So he has to sell. I don't care what he says. Honestly, he could say that right now. That's his vision. He has to sell something. They have to sell enough FUVs and deliverators even if he doesn't want to.
Yep.
Okay, I'll make what I think is the bull case, because this actually makes me more bullish on the company. If they can get a couple of these vehicles out and start seeding this rideshare thing,
A couple
then the money
that's the problem. A couple is a problem. He needs to sell 50,000 of these things for us to make money.
There's a dollar amount that's attached with that 50,000, right? Whatever your target number of revenue is from selling 50,000 vehicles. I think he's looking at it as, with a good rideshare penetration, we can make that same amount of money with less vehicles, because the vehicle brings in more income than the cost to make it. And so that's where I think he's thinking. Lee, to your point about them not being in control of the software, I actually think that's good, because they have full companies who are just dedicated to that versus a portion of their team. You have this company
not good.
that
He's
is
banking.
just...
I know what you're saying, but he's banking on them being ready.
Of course. But he knows that there's a bunch of players. And his thing was, let me make the platform available to work with everybody. Someone's going to solve it, he said, right? And someone is going to solve it. Now, what Tesla is doing is very different. They're making literally a sentient being that's rolling around, and it will look exactly the same in a rideshare, but they're trying to solve a much bigger problem. You know, he's thinking airport to hotel, hotel to hotel if you're in Vegas. Those are really simple trips, and somebody that with a remote could operate those things.
I don't want to keep shooting myself in the foot by saying I'm an engineer. This is not a simple trip. This is not an easy thing. This is extremely difficult. All these people that he's banking on, I feel they will let him down, and I didn't hear the plan B.
But why do you feel they'll let him down? Why are you convinced that
engineering is, I don't know, just even listen to Elon, engineering is hard. Okay, first of all, 2023, that's 370 days away. You're telling me there's going to be an autonomous stack that someone could just put into the vehicle and we've got this working. The next 20,000 vehicles, they're on a ROBOTAXI network. I would love to believe that. And dude, me and you would be billionaires in FUV. Okay. At this point, that stock would be worth, you don't understand, thousands of dollars a share. It's a dream. I mean, that is, oh my God, I can't even explain how much of a dream. And I was so sort of disappointed in that he didn't give me a realistic base case saying that's my plan, but we're going to sell 25,000 of these deliverators in the interim. I didn't hear that part. I gave him an open to say like, yes, how many vehicles are you going to sell? I gave him that open, right? What percentage of those vehicles will be RoboTaxis? What percentage will be FUVs and deliverators? If he even said, look, I expect 50% to be sold and as FUVs or deliverators, and the other 50% I'm going to try to put into this network because we need to seed the network. That to me is like a reasonable thing to say. But he said most. Am I wrong? He said most of the vehicles will go to this RoboTaxi network. So now I'm thinking, I think he's betting the company on this.
Yeah, maybe it didn't mean RoboTaxi networks, but just fleets like Reef or any other rental locations.
Yeah, well, we tried to. I don't think it's the Reef thing because
he did say RoboTaxi. He did say
really.
Okay. Yeah, he did.
Hey, whatever. Follow the leader. Whatever simple RoboTaxi network it is. It could be some guy and controlling all that. That's fine. I'm just saying to bet the whole company on that seems actually to me it's.
But do you really think that if he said I'm going to try to go unit for unit against Tesla, against the Chinese, against
he doesn't
Toyota,
have to go against Tesla. He's a $300 million company. He sells 20,000 of them. Me and you are sitting pretty.
But I'm saying in terms of getting people to put their cash, if it's the same price point of a $20,000 Tesla or a Chinese vehicle that's closed, that has active safety features like an airbag, I don't know that there's enough demand for that, but I think there's enough demand for the rideshare thing. And I do think that could eventually lead to sales.
I'm saying the technology itself will not be ready at all in 2023 in 370 days. This is what I'm saying.
I think for what he's trying to do, he can start small and it's something you can build on. You have a hub in a certain place, an operator that has 5 vehicles, and you need to drive them 3 blocks each.
Multiply how many people you need all across the country now, how many vehicles you need for this to be profitable, how many stations you need all over the places, and the infrastructure. This is a massive undertaking to actually become a profitable company. So he could be saying to us, we expect not to be profitable for a very long time, till 2027, 28. We're going after this market. We're going to win it, but we're going to lose money until then. Remember, I'm an investor, okay? We're going to lose money until then, until we succeed in that particular thing and F this other thing, which can possibly just get us to break even, which is selling the vehicles, FUVs, delivered, blah, blah, blah. So this is my issue, that what you're saying is 100% correct. That's the right way to go. But in the interim, just like me and Lee keep saying, he needs to sell something to somebody.
But
Lee,
I think
you got to back back me up on this a little bit.
No, I'm getting what Carlos was saying, that it is good that they're not developing the tech themselves, to not get distracted, to not put capital at risk. But the problem is they're not in a driver's seat in terms of development of the tech. I think maybe as another video idea, we could do a deep dive on the companies that they could potentially work together, like Faction and AI, and so to kind of look, okay, how far are they actually in the game? Is this something that could be commercialized in 2 years, maybe 3 years, 5 years?
Well, no. You can't do that anymore. You can't say 5 years, because me and Carlos had a big video about, is this 5 years from now? Or is this like a year or two from now? And Mark is saying this is
it's 2 years or 2 from now.
2023. A year from now, even. A year and a half, a year from now. Majority of vehicles are going to be ROBOTAXI, whatever that means. I find that very nerve-wracking.
So let's do a follow-up video to see, is AI and Faction, are they ready in 2023 with this tech?
AI has tech that makes driving chill. That's their whole slogan, where there's an operator and you can take over at any time. So maybe he's thinking there's an operator somewhere and they'll remotely always take over, but still, I'm just talking about the infrastructure by 2023 that's needed.
Dude, I want to respond to I want to respond to your original point. First of all, I think that is a sign that he's done the research and knows that there is not enough demand to sell these vehicles one at a time. There's just not enough demand. And even if there is in 10 years, they don't have enough runway to last 10 years to get the price down to where it needs to be, especially with all of the competitors. So I see it as this is the only play that he can make. That's where we disconnect. You think like he has the option of selling 50,000. I don't think he even has the option of selling. If he had 50,000 of them now, they would sit there. They would not get sold.
I do want Lee's take on this, because you told us there is a whole market for these small vehicles in Europe.
For the form factor, if they are really going to unveil the Platform 2 on Tuesday, February 22nd, and so on and so forth, I think if they get that to market within the next 1 or 2 years already, would be earlier than we expected. Just for the form factor, I think what the Arcimoto is for the US in terms of smaller size would be the Platform 2 to the European and Asian market, because the FUV from a form factor perspective has almost the same size as a Volkswagen Polo or a Smart Golf, or a Mini Cooper, right, or a Golf for that sake. So you don't get much benefit from that. But Platform 2, like an e-scooter form factor, that's interesting. It depends on which market he's going next after. Is it Asia? Is it Europe? Is it both at the same time?
But what happened to all these deliberator plans that we've been talking about for like a year now?
Yeah, that comes on top of that.
But that's part of a rideshare thing. They can still do that, but those deliverators are not bought by Target or Walmart. They're just part of a rideshare network. They're sharing those vehicles. Or like we discussed on our episode, it's more like an individual fleet operator that services. Like if I had the money and I bought 10 of these FUVs, I would set up a system with those companies and say, look, let me put 2 or 3 of those in your place. We'll deliver the packages or do the supermarket short deliveries, cut you a little piece. And that's my main business. And maybe Arcimoto takes a small piece of it until the vehicles are paid for, and then a royalty. I think
you're conflating again. If he said that, I would say I'm still bullish about the 2023. He said I'm doing ROBOTAXIs mostly. So It's not even this rental thing that we discussed at length. It's not even like give it to a fleet operator so he can control and have drivers and all that like we discussed at length. I love the idea. Love it. It sounds so futuristic.
Right.
2023, Arcimoto, $300 million market cap, to have that available?
All of the tech is literally already there. Like, what do they need to change to be able to do it? It's already been proven. It's the business logistics. It's not the technology. That's a barrier to that.
It's worse than that. It requires so much capital and time. Okay, I hate bringing.
Who is this guy that looks like Vitaly and sounds like a bear right now?
I hate bringing up Tesla as a great example, but they are. Even Rivian, by the way, which is way more capitalized than Arcimoto, worth $100 billion, cannot even get your ADAS system to work correctly to drive down the road. Ford cannot get a system right now to drive correctly without shutting down. So I'm just saying the operation of, even if Arcimoto is not doing that, to have all these bodies and people and vans and electronics and all over the country, plus the laws involved in the regulations. How are you guys not as bearish now?
I agree on that, because also kind of just try to make a real world case of that would mean that they could manage their people, hundreds, if not thousands of people that operate these taxis.
Tens of thousands.
Or tens of thousands. You have to make an artificial software, like an algorithm that predicts when the taxis are demanded where? After a football game, after a theater's movie ends, like you have to guesstimate the exact spot and time of the demand on a map.
Well, he's saying meaning where the vehicles are. If the vehicles are a moving platform, they go where demand is. If you just leave them in one spot, assuming it's a hub, maybe like New York City, that's a hub, so you can always have some demand. But still, even if he has that, I'll give him that. I'm saying, how are you going to put 1,000 of these or 10,000 of these all over the place and make some money in the next couple of years? That's my problem. I don't see how he's going to get that to everybody in the next year.
I think what he would say is it would look very similar to the current model that they use for rentals. They have a deal with Reef. They give them 4 or 5 vehicles. And once they give them those vehicles, Reef takes over the logistics of getting them to the people. Mark and Arcimoto is not involved in the customer interaction to rent the vehicle. They just take a piece of the profit. I think he's looking at it as the same thing. But in some of those locations, you'd have an operator there. Even if you look back at some of their early decks, you can see the GUI on the Arcimoto app. They actually have samples of this about how you would hail a ride. It would know which center you're closest to, and it would ping that person in the same way that Uber does right now. When I put out a call, it sends it out to the local drivers using GPS. I think it's a lot simpler what they're trying to do, and they're not trying to solve autonomy. It's a younger brother of that. It's more like what he said, a robo-valet. We're just going to bring the vehicle to you, and then you drive it. Then you drop it off, and we'll deal with it from there.
I'm going to give you your point. I'm going to give you and say you're right in that aspect of it. The problem, once again, is Arcimoto has to run a massive operation on top of all of this with massive logistics across the country and the world to still operate this network. This is not an individual network operator anymore, the way he was saying it. He is in charge of this network. He is responsible for it. That means whoever they hire to drive these to point to A to B, it's not just the Reef operator. That can't be that guy because that liability is weird. You need the central hub, which is Arcimoto, just like Tesla's the central hub for their autonomous network. That's what it's going to have to be. And I don't think Mark is at a stage in the company's life where he can do that in a year. That's all I'm saying.
Right now, Uber does the same thing with Toyotas and
10 years to get just the network.
But let me make the point. Uber is doing the same thing with other people's cars, right? They're doing that with Fords, and they don't care. Like, they don't care what the car is. They're just dealing with the connection of the need to the vehicle. And I think that's all that he would be handling. There are going to be, if he has some flagship Arcimoto rentals or rideshare, yes, you have to operate those and you need to take that over. But if you're giving those vehicles to people either at cost or whatever it is, and then they handle it, I don't think that Mark's on the hook for the logistics of that. It's like a franchise, right? Like a franchising a business. They tell you exactly how to do it, and then you guys go and handle it, and you deal with the upfront costs. You deal with the logistics of finding the driver. We're going to provide the platform, just like he's providing the vehicle platform. We're going to provide like the digital infrastructure to turnkey, buy 6 FUVs, and you'll have a small rideshare going in your city. I really think that was the whole purpose of the Ride of the Arconauts, was to go to those places, see what the markets are, talk to some people that he could eventually get that in, and then say, look, if we give you 10 FUVs, can you get that up and running? If he does that, then they can actually become profitable earlier, because one vehicle is on the balance sheet. It's not just the price of the vehicle that's their profit. They're making a revenue every month, and it would really help with their monthly cash flow, help stabilize it. So I don't know. I left more bullish. I'm surprised that you guys are bearish.
Lily, I think you have to answer. I have so much to say.
I don't understand. I literally, that was what he said was some great answers.
No, it's great if you're not thinking about, I do have an engineering mind. I can't forget my past, how hard these things are. It's just really difficult to execute on what he's saying, especially when he's not in control of 80% of it. I don't know how much he's not in control of what he's saying, because he doesn't have that stack. They haven't built that. They don't have the factory. They don't have the vehicles. They're still building it. They don't have the loan. They're missing a million pieces, and you're already giving them a ROBOTAXI network.
For the vehicles that they sell, if they pay for themselves and another one in a year, then making 100
They're not going to pay for themselves. That's what he said. They're not going to pay for themselves.
In a ROBOTAXI, they would.
Eventually.
We'll use Warren's numbers of if each vehicle makes 100 a day. Warren was like, they make $100 a day roughly.
You're right. 2030 model, amazing. Warren is right. 2027 model, amazing. I am saying next year, if he doesn't give me my FUV by next year, I see a real problem. I'm not selling my shares. I'm not going that far, but it doesn't make me more bullish to want to go buy more shares right now until I see what happens.
If he feels he could make more money off of that FUV than the 20,000 that you would give him for it, he's going to put it on the ROBOTAXI network, and that makes sense for him to do.
I'm just wondering how much gross margin. Lee, you tell us. How much money is he going to lose in 2023 now?
Dozens of millions, I guess.
hundreds of millions, even if he puts it out there. Let's say this dream comes true. He puts it out there, the vehicles are all around. All of a sudden the network is operational, making $30,000 per vehicle. That's not how life works.
No. Now, really, if someone wants to buy Arcimoto shares today or next week, what is your reasonable bull case for next 2 years? Is it a ROBOTAXI service or a valet service being operational and profitable within 2 years? Yeah. Or is it selling a couple of thousand vehicles to customers?
Do you think he could produce 10,000 vehicles next year?
Not next year, but over next year easily. Next year, it will be a couple of thousand, I hope.
I'm saying in 2022, right? You guys seem to be really hesitant about the idea of a rideshare. So let's take your numbers, for example. How many vehicles do you really think he would be able to produce? And what would be the profit on that?
2,000 vehicles I have in my spreadsheet.
Okay,
I could also see that that's reasonable. And then 2023, 15,000.
15,000. Interesting.
That'll be roughly a third of the maximum capacity of the factory.
15,000 vehicles total the whole year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What happens when 90% of those are not for sale anymore?
What do you mean with not for sale? Go to fleets or?
They're not for sale. They're part of this ROBOTAXI thing that I assume he's going to have to take a beating on for a little bit, because you got to seed the network. You can't just say, hey, buy my ROBOTAXI. He's going to have to start putting it out there, making a lot of deals, basically fronting the cost for people to take these on. You know that's going to happen, right? So all of a sudden, 15,000 vehicles, take away 90% of those vehicles. That's the money we were counting that was coming in, that you counted. That goes away.
It depends on whether a third party is operating and buy them outright, or if Arcimoto is operating them and has to generate revenue and profits off of the ROBOTAXI.
That network becomes operational. I think Mark is assuming that's, maybe he's not, maybe he's just not telling us the whole story, but you know that network is not going to be successful overnight. Do we agree that this is not a successful overnight type of a thing, or am I the only realist? Am I the only realist?
No. If he sold 15,000 vehicles in 2023 at an average sale price of 15 grand, which is coming down some, it's $225 million. So and that's now, almost the market cap of the company right now.
Right. So, but get rid of 150 to 200 million, because he doesn't want that money. That's what he told us.
But what do you think they could be making on that in terms of rideshare?
We're talking 2023. Remember, I'm an investor. I don't know why you're buying Arcimoto, but I expect a return on my money. So I don't know why you're buying it. The dream, if I want a robotic autonomous network, I'm going to buy Tesla.
A lot of it just comes down to what's the price, right? What is the price for the
No, but I'm saying if I'm betting on a ROBOTAXI network right now, today in the market, there is only one, and it's Tesla. There's nobody else to buy.
Or Uber. You can make a case for Uber or Lyft.
I am not investing in Arcimoto for a ROBOTAXI network tomorrow. I'm not saying I don't want them there eventually. Of course I do. They're going to bleed money for so long now. From what Mark said, he said, I'm willing to bleed for the next 5 to 7 years while you guys wait. That's what I heard. I don't know what you heard.
I think Carlos made a fair point earlier. If you're assuming that 15,000 volume in 2023, he's going to allocate these sales or use case that make the most money. And if the ROBOTAXI valet service isn't available yet, it's going to consumers and companies and fleets. If the ROBOTAXI is operational and profitable, a substantial part of that goes to this service. And it will be in excess of, let's say that back of napkin math, $200 million in revenue. It will be more.
But he didn't say it that way. He might be doing that. I'm not saying he's not doing that.
He did say, I'll talk about some stuff. There's going to be some more. I'm assuming he's going to do something in January, and maybe he'll announce this. But I do want to run some numbers, right? If he has a $15,000 vehicle, right? And we're saying in 1 year he can sell that vehicle. If you divide $15,000 by 12, you get $1,250. That means that a ROBOTAXI vehicle that he would not sell to a customer needs to make $1,250 a month minimum in order to equal its price. So how many days are there in a month? Say 30 days. It's a 30-day operation. So divided by 30 days roughly, that vehicle needs to make $41 a day.
Yeah.
So to make $41 a day, let's just say it needs to spend how many hours? 4 hours charging? Say 6 hours charging. So let's say the most that it could be on the road, 18 hours a day. $41 divided by 18, he literally needs to make $2.20 per hour for 30 days, for a year, for that vehicle to break even, for that vehicle to have paid for itself.
I know, but you're not counting the capital.
Hour?
I know you, but once again, there's capital involved to getting the whole infrastructure operational, all the vehicles, the people he still needs to operate it, the central hub, the software. There's so many layers of this that mean you have never been involved in anything this big.
If that's being handled by a fleet operator, right, that is purchasing the vehicle and it's going into an ecosystem, at the end of the day, you're still talking about the vehicle needs to make $2.20 per hour. They make $30 an hour renting them in Eugene,
Yeah,
Oregon,
but that's
right?
the rental model.
If they're getting $35 to drive it for an hour, right? To make $2 to do a couple of short trips, that's actually $2. And that's for an hour. That's $2 an hour. Like I pay $2 to one of those little birds, the little Uber birds. Like if I was going to go to a restaurant with some friends during lunch and we were working, and now you do that with an Arcimoto.
Yeah, I think there's a huge benefit to that and also a huge problem for a young startup. The benefit is clearly margin. This service would be highly profitable. Off of that $15,000, they would make in excess of $10,000 profit. The issue here is for a young startup, and think about Tesla. What their issue was 3 years ago, cash flows. They have to pay upfront for the vehicle, but then the revenue stream, so the cash flow back to the company, is spread out over a year. So that was Tesla's issues back in the days when they were ramping. They had to pay for all the factory, all the material, all the people, all the work, delivery, everything. And then they had to sell these vehicles as quickly as possible. Right after production hell came delivery hell. So that was the issue of Tesla, that they kind of really managing cash flows intensively in order to survive. And with this type of service, Arcimoto will be in the exact same situation. They will be worse. They need to be highly, highly liquid.
Okay, well,
worse. Hold on. Let me just respond to this. Worst situation. And the reason is Tesla was a $40 billion market cap company when they were in this production hell. They can go back to the capital markets, which they did, and they raised a lot of money and diluted us to shit again. But obviously it worked out. This is a $300 million company that's going to crush you in dilution to get to any sort of scale on this. They will not be able to do this ramp without going bankrupt or without our shares becoming 100th of what it's worth right now.
We're assuming it's a $15,000 price. That's a cost to the customer, assuming that there's a markup, right? The actual cost of the vehicle will be cheaper than the $15,000 that they would sell it for. So let's say that it only costs them $10,000 to produce it. This is what we're hoping for. So now the amount of money that they would need to make to start making a profit is actually less because they're not selling it at the markup, right? They're selling it less. Okay, well, I got a theory that at some point he is going to publicly announce that they're more like an Uber than they are a Tesla. I think part of the reason FUV's stock price is so low is because people are saying, how are you going to compete with Tesla? Like, how are you ever going to compete with them selling vehicles? I think if they announce that they're more of a competitor to Uber, what's Uber's market cap now? 60, 70 billion? I haven't checked it recently.
Somewhere around there.
If the market understood and valued them as more of a rideshare Uber Lyft competitor versus a Ford Rivian Tesla competitor, I do think that the stock price would go up. I could see the stock price being $10, $15.
Let's roll this back. He doesn't have this technology. He doesn't have this network built out with the infrastructure, the software infrastructure for them to do that. So, and he's saying by 2023, they're going to do that. But I've never heard in any call that they're a software company that's building out all of this infrastructure. Did you, Lee? Do you know what I'm saying?
That's what I think is the big pivot.
Yeah, it would be a big pivot to substantially change the course of the company and the means of the company, right? And the goal, the overarching goal.
What do you think that would do to the stock price?
It's going to the toilet. I'm going to make it.
You think to the toilet right now. So you think it'd go in the toilet? What do you think? If he announces in the beginning of the year, we're really a rideshare company. We're building this platform and we plan to scale this thing up to try to get that $1 a mile or whatever he said was his goal. And he announces that they're that. What do you think that does to the stock price?
I don't know. I'm not so bullish on that because, as Vitaly said,
that's crazy.
He has to have the tech ready. He has to have the tech ready.
He said he's not doing that part, though. Right. Yeah, he said he's not doing that.
It's even worse that he said that. I don't get how you're saying this is a positive. This is way worse.
Just announcing that you are or you want to be, I guess that's the point, and that's why I'm not thinking that the market would buy such an announcement.
Well, I think we're going to see. I do think that's coming.
Let's wrap this up, I guess. But it's a great episode, by the way. Great episode.
This was chock full of information, man.
But let's wrap this up. In terms of like what I understand it to be, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But the way I heard it is that most of the vehicles coming off of 2023 line are going to try to go to this ROBOTAXI network that he's trying to build out, even if it's this faux autonomy thing where there's people involved in this a drive-by-wire type of a thing. Cool. But now let's talk about the stock price. If that happens, if they're trying to do that and they're showing that their gross margin is even worse when Lee went over all his numbers, I don't think the stock market will actually reward him for this. I think they're going to sort of crush him for this, especially as he dilutes us even further. So I'm not selling my shares. I already made an investment and I was buying at $2. I'm not going to sell it. I'm just going to keep my investment and see, play out this future that's probable. We'll see what happens because I have an order. Why doesn't he want my $20,000? Why don't you just take my $20,000 right now? Put it in your bank account. 5,000 people have an order. Take our money, okay? Take our money, put it in your bank account, and that'll fund your next operation. But I didn't hear that. So right now I'm sort of bearish, to be honest, that the stock won't do well if I'm an investor, and I'm talking about the stock here. That besides any charting that we can do about it, I think it's not going to do well. And even if it does, do you think it's going to $50 now? I don't know. I'm not selling, but I'm not buying. Let me put it this way.
I agree completely. The only thing I want to add here is he has to have a plan B. He has to have a plan without the ALYI ROBOTAXI service to survive another couple of years until that tech is ready. And that's my bold thesis that they will be able to do so with the deliberator, with fleet, with rentals. And I'm definitely not banking on such a service, a ROBOTAXI service, being operational and profitable in 2023. No way. But I want them to succeed. If they can introduce such a service a little bit later, great. My plan actually was that at this point in time, they will pass the EV tax credit infrastructure package, and this actually won't happen probably.
There is talks of a separate EV bill. So even if Build Back Better doesn't happen, there's talks that they might push it through as a separate bill that would just be for EVs.
Thanks for bringing that up. And then the second point that would de-risk the bull thesis would be if they get the ATVM loan. And that would be the point when I'm putting in more money.
You're waiting basically for the ATVM loan and some form of the Build Back Better or just the EV tax credit to come through. He said he's not going to be selling these vehicles. He really wants to have a robotaxi network and not sell these vehicles. Doesn't that still leave a lot of risk on the table for you, even 2023 now?
We have to get more information about their ramp plan and their volume production plan. Also maybe update from the Sandy Munro collab, some CapEx guidance and cost trajectory guidance. Like, do they have a plan to bring costs down to at least 20K, maybe 15K to break even? That would be very important.
Okay, doesn't sound bullish to me, guys.
All right, then I'll wrap this thing out. That conversation made me more bullish on FUV and more confident in Mark as a leader. He comes from software. He told you this from the beginning. Our first question, he's an engineer, but he comes from software. So I think even though we've known them as a company that makes physical products, I think in the back of his mind, this has always been some sort of software play for him. And the platform is a way of distributing software, that he sees his platform as distributed software. This made me way more bullish on it because somebody needs to be first. If no one does anything, then we know that Tesla's going to win in 2024, 2025 when this comes out. And I think he sees it as someone's got to make this move now. We're already still trying to ramp. We're already in a point where we're not profitable. We're already there. If we can use this time and we can survive, we can get first mover advantage over everyone else. And the advantage they would have over someone like Uber right now is that Uber doesn't make their own vehicles yet. And making your own vehicles, I would argue, is a lot harder than trying to create the service that Uber does on the software side. And if Mark comes from that world, I think he's more comfortable in that world. And it made me way more bullish on the company and their trajectory, more confident that he's got his head in the right place when he's thinking about where we're going to be mobility wise as a species in 10 years. I mean, even Tesla has said, if you lease a vehicle now, you must return it and you can't buy them anymore. I mean, there's going to be a point where you're not going to be able to buy Teslas because they're all just going to be robotaxis.
Tesla's $1 trillion, buddy.
Even Elon has said this. There's going to be a point where the price for rideshare is going to be so cheap that no one will buy vehicles. So if you're not buying vehicles and you're not in a space of getting people to still use your service, you are screwed. And to try to make that pivot later on, I think it's going to be harder. So yes, it's more of a risk and there's a cost up front, but I think he's doing it in a way where he's trying to spread it out with other companies who also have the same goals. Like these companies that want to see a $2,000 box that'll convert any vehicle into a rideshare vehicle or an autonomous vehicle. He's looking to ride that wave with these other startups that are coming in to try to usher in this new individual
Let me ask
mobility.
you a question to what you've said. Are you going to put a lot of money right now and 2023 in this hope? Or you're like, well, no, let me hang back and see what actually happens?
Well, I think I'm actually with Lee on this. I think I'm more like, there are still some things we need to see because like if without the loan, that becomes, you still have to make the vehicles, right? I don't care where the ride share, you sell them to a customer. You still need to make the vehicles. You still need a factory. So we got to know what's going on with the loan. The tax incentive would be great, but I meant to ask him that, like, how does that work if you're making these for ride share? Do you even get a tax break if you're giving it to someone at cost? I don't know how that works. Whatever it is, there are some glaring questions that I would need to know. I mean, I have a small position in FUV, but it's like to grow it, I I do think, even as an investor, I think we're going to see lower prices. He's telling us he's going to dilute us. That's telling me that the price is coming down. So I'm bullish on the overall future of it, but that doesn't mean I have to find my entry point right now.
As we all have shares in Arcimoto, we don't have any time pressure. If it skyrockets tomorrow, we are already in it, right? We can invest more money once we are very confident that they will succeed whatever they're trying to do.
That's a great point. The people that held Tesla for 10 years waited 10 years and then it shot to 900. So you just hold. You got in at such a good price point. You have the luxury of waiting. Here's the thing. You got in at such a price point that if it's doomsday and the company's tanking, you will never sell those shares at a loss. It's more for people that are trying to dollar cost average in, trying to figure out how low is it going to go. But if I saw the $1.79 price right now, I'd back the truck up. They'll have some positive catalysts over the next year or two, which will get it up above the $2, $5, maybe even back to double digits. I don't see any reason to rush in right now, nor do I see a reason to rush out. They're in a do or die position. It's still risky, whether you believe your guy's thesis or my thesis. Yeah. It's still risky because they still have to make the vehicles. So you can't do without the vehicles.
It's worse than that.
That's the thing.
That's why I keep going. It's worse than that. They don't only have to make the vehicles. This is what you keep going back to. No, now they have to make the vehicles and they have to populate the whole world with these little ROBOTAXI networks all over the place. These problems are
so hung up on it. They literally showed it could be driven by wire. It's like, it's
oh
not,
my
I don't
God.
know what the
dude, this is so hard. Lee, you gotta, I feel like I'm arguing only against Carlos. Yeah, this is so hard.
No, I mean, because Lee agrees with you.
Lee, yeah, but I want him to add some like 5 cents in because I feel like I'm being a bear, but I'm not. I'm being a realist. Everything he said makes me now want to wait before I do anything.
Yeah, that's maybe kind of the sentiment in markets, and that's why the shares are trending down a bit.
Guys, let us know in the comments below. Are you a bear? Are you a bull? Is there going to be a response video to Vitaly suddenly going full on bear to FUV?
Warren, I'm coming to your side. The first video, I'm coming to your side.
Guys, if you like this video, please consider hitting like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for more content like this. Thank you, Lee, for coming on. You guys should definitely subscribe to his channel, and we're going to be doing this again.
Happy New Year to you guys and to everyone. It's going to be an exciting 2022. Let's see what they come up with on Tuesday, 22nd, 2 p.m. 22 West Coast time. Platform 2. Okay.
Happy New Year. Thank you for watching. We appreciate all the love and the comments. Keep it coming. We're going to see you in 2022.